Hi, welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Brennan. If you have been following along with us, we are in the middle of doing a skirt series using quilting fabrics. We just finished the segment on a very simple pull-on skirt with an elastic waistband. You can get that free download at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Now we're gonna take the game up a little bit. We're gonna be doing a very slightly more complicated skirt. We're just gonna be adding on a couple new skills that we haven't done before, including how to print and tape a pattern together, how to cut the pattern. We're gonna go over pattern matching, what the grain means, how to hold the pattern down while you cut it. We're gonna go over marking, how to sew darts together, a French seam again, how to use interfacing on the waistband prep, and also using the elastic on just the back side of the waistband. And then last of all, we are going to go over how to fit the skirt so that you have a straight hem all the way around, because a lot of times we as women do not have the exact same measurement in the front and in the back. So we're going to go over how to measure that hem so that you have a nice straight hem all the way around. So if you haven't already, head on over to shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com and get your pattern. In this video, we are going to go over printing the pattern and taping it together, so you are ready to put it on your fabric and ready to go. All right, so when you go to print your pattern, you're gonna have two options. There is one option, I forget what it's called. I think it's A0, but it's one big sheet of paper, kind of similar to what you would see in a store-bought pattern with your tissue paper, where everything is all together. You're probably gonna need to go to a copy center, maybe your local library, they might be able to print that for you. But most folks at home don't have the ability to print that. Now the other option is you can print it on your standard printer paper that's 8.5 by 11. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that your pattern is printed at 100% scale. Now this square here needs to be 1 inch squared. So we're going to grab a ruler and measure that. And it should fit exactly. If it fits exactly, then your pattern is good to go. You can go ahead and start taping it. So what you're going to do is we're lining up these notches here. So because of margins and stuff, there is going to be some overlap. So if you can do this on a light surface, if you have a light table, that is perfect, but not very many people have a light table. So just try to find like a white tabletop or white countertop so that you can see the lines through the paper. You can kind of see right here, the edges of the bottoms of the triangle are lining up. And I also have this line here overlapping. And then I can also check on the bottom here, I can see that that line continues. Now here at the shop, I'm gonna be using packing tape because that's what we have. At home, Scotch tape. Really you could use masking tape or something like that. I would really be careful with that because you wanna be able to see your cutting lines. And for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tape together the sides of the pattern. And then when I attach the bottom row here, because we have 3 rows of sheets in this particular pattern, I'm going to go through and tape down here as well. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the sides. If you have some kind of a weight, like a paper weight or something, like your phone, maybe your roll of tape to hold the paper down so it doesn't slip while you're moving your hands around, like that just did right there, that would be a really good tip. Because you really want this to be absolutely as precise as possible. And you can see here the darts are labeled. We have 1C, we're matching to 1C. Over here, we matched 1B to 1B, 1A to 1A. I point that out because right here can be a little bit confusing because we have the skirt, the top of the skirt front over here, which is going to be right side up. And over here we have the bottom of the skirt back. So make sure that you're matching your notches together when you're taping. And I'm actually going to put that on the underside so I can still see this part here. So really take your time on this step. I am going to use my phone just to hold it down. And when you're done, this is what your first row is going to look like. So now I'm just going to get the second and the third row and we're going to tape it all together. On this step, if you have a space where you can really spread out, like if you have a nice big table, good sized countertop, that's best so you can work so everything can be flat. Otherwise, just put something to hold your paper down so it's not sliding around while you're trying to tape it together. So it looks like I made a mistake on here. So what I'm gonna do, instead of trying to take the tape off I'm just cutting it. And I could see the mistake because the paper wasn't lying flat. I was trying to move on to the next one and line it up, and it was bubbling up on me. We don't want that. So just cut the tape, line it up again. Sometimes folks find it easier to start in the middle and work your way out. If you want to do that, go ahead. All right, now that you have your pattern taped together, you have one big sheet like this. Now, one thing that you can do if you don't want to cut this up, you can get what's called pattern paper, which is, it's kind of like tracing paper in that it's very, very thin. You can see through it really, really easily, but you can lay it on top of this and you can trace out the size that you need. That way, if you put all the time into tape this together, you don't want to cut it up, or you want to cut multiple sizes without printing a bunch of patterns, that's something that you can do. And that paper is pretty durable, so that you can use that for multiple patterns. You can keep those. That would be a really good thing to invest in. So what we're doing for this video is we are actually going to be cutting out a size 6 for Courtney. So let's get started. Now I am using, technically they are fabric scissors, but these are a really old pair of fabric scissors. So they're not quite as sharp, so I'm going to go ahead and use them on the paper. If we're using like with store-bought patterns, you have the tissue paper, that you could probably use your fabric shears. I prefer not to when we're talking about printer paper, just because it's a lot thicker, it's going to eat up your scissors a lot faster. So if you're using this, get some paper scissors, don't use your good fabric scissors. Now, you may or may not know this already, but there is no standard method of sizing or measuring for women's clothes. So you really want to measure your body to figure out what size you need. The easiest way to do that for this skirt, measure around your waist. That's going to tell you what size you need. If you want to, when you get in here, if you wanted to trace where the paper overlaps so you can see where you're cutting, you certainly can. Or if you can see through the paper well enough, you can just cut it out without tracing it. All right, so now we've got our pattern pieces all cut out. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and cut it out from the fabric, and I'll show you what all the markings mean. All right, thank you so much. Make sure you go to shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com and download your pattern. Happy quilting and happy garment sewing.